We were interviewing, teachers and people on the street and important people and, all levels of society about how they felt pro and con about the revolution. So we brought this video camera. So I'm in the long distance calling Joan to tell her about the revolution or whatever it was. Maybe it was her birthday. And this very handsome poet, who I thought he looked like a poet, came over and started to talk to me. And I thought he was very interesting, and I said, I told him what we were doing about interviewing various people. Would he like to be interviewed? And he said, certainly. So, so then we made a date for that evening, for me to go over and meet him and do the interview, which is what I did. And I went over and did an interview with him, and then he took me out on a date, and, I told him right away, I knew he was much younger than me. I told him right away how old I was, and he was 29 and I was 43, And then Sue Siegel and I were going down to a southern town, a beach town in Nicaragua, and I was telling him, he said, well, he would love to join us there. Well, I said, of course you could come with us, or meet us down there, and which he did. And we proceeded to, kind of fall in love on the trip. Sort of, I'll tell you exactly what happened. I did tell him, because I had decided, this was another one of the river flows, I had never been able to decide for myself that I wanted to have children. I was never clear about it, because to have a child by yourself, not being married, that's a pretty, difficult thing to decide. And there's some women that do, but I wasn't that type. But I knew I was 43, and the chances of, getting pregnant were pretty slim at that point. So I left it up to God. I said to God, I can't make up my mind. I leave it up to you. So I got rid of my protection. And, whatever the fates will have, that's the way I plan my life. Whatever the fates bring me, so it be. So I warned him. I said, by the way, I'm not using any protection. And he didn't believe me, because he figured, I don't know, he didn't take me seriously. But what happened was, so he was cute, he was nice. The thing that I really, really, really liked about him was that I felt very, very free and very, very comfortable with him from the beginning. I just felt completely comfortable with him. I felt like I could completely be myself. He was an easy person to talk to. He talked quite a lot. He was a big talker, which I like. I'm not comfortable with shy men. And we just had fun and easy. And so we returned, Sue Siegel went on someplace else, and we returned together. Actually, we hitchhiked back to the capital, and on the way we stopped off at Granada, which is a conservative town in Nicaragua, and we went to stay at a hotel, and it was not a good hotel. He didn't like it. He felt very claustrophobic in it, and I felt claustrophobic. It was a tiny little room, and it was, and he said, let's get out of here. We'll go sleep on the beach. So we left, and I had my camera with me, the video camera, and we laid out our clothes to sleep on the beach, and he stayed up all night long protecting it, because he was a little bit afraid that it could be stolen. So he stayed up all night long taking care of me and taking care of the camera. I was very impressed by that. It was so sweet that I opened my heart up to him. And I realized the next morning, as the cows are walking past us in the pasture on the beach, and we're looking out at the water. It's a big lake, Managua is there. We weren't by the ocean, it's a huge lake. I started liking really deeply, feeling. And I remember I thought to myself, I shouldn't tell him, because in my experience, as soon as I told the guy I really liked him, that was when he stopped liking me. So I knew, don't say anything, Helen, but I couldn't help it. We were out to breakfast, and I said, I don't know if I said, I think I'm falling in love with you, but I said something, in that nature, I'm feeling, and he turned around and he said to me, I feel the same way. So that was the first time, it was that kind of response. And so it was very beautiful. It was very beautiful. And then, but then I was leaving. I was leaving in a short time. And We went back to to Managua. We spent some time together. Then he went up to Esteli, which is 3 hours north of Managua, and I was leaving on the plane in a short while. So the morning that I was leaving, he took a bus that night because you had to take it at night to get to the airport on time, and he stayed up all night long so he could just say goodbye to me. And I was very touched by that. And of course, if he hadn't come to say goodbye to me, I wouldn't be where I am now, because at that moment when he was saying goodbye to me at the airplane, I gave him my phone number. He wouldn't have had my phone number. I gave him my phone number and I said, well, let's talk. We started, started to talk seriously, that we would see each other again, and, that we knew something serious was happening between us. Well, I get home to New York and I go to visit Aunt Lil, and Mom and Aunt Lil are watching a TV program. I forget that guy who was popular then. He did interview shows with people. He was a real liberal. I can't remember his name. But the interesting thing is that he was having these older women and younger men. The whole show, 40-year-old women with 25-year-old men, the whole show. So I just thought that was very funny. And I told him, I think, that I had met this guy. And, a couple of weeks later, not very long later, I didn't get my period. And I went to a doctor with my friend Ann, and she said, oh, you're probably menopausal, because I was already 43. She said, I said, no, I don't think so. Anyway, I had the test, and sure enough, I was pregnant. And so because I had his phone number, I could call, and, and he said, do you want to get married? Or I said, one of us said it, and I said, yeah. Because suddenly the idea, I wasn't too late. I could still get married. I could still have a baby. I could have the whole kit and caboodle. And so I said yes. But of course, like a week later, I miscarried. And so I called him again, and he said, do you still want to get married? And I said, I don't really know. Because I thought, this would bring us together raising a child, but we can't even watch television together. You speak Spanish. What do we have in common, to have as a couple? Raising a child would give us something. So I said, I don't know, I have to think about it. So I went home and I thought about it, and I clearly decided to myself that even though I lost the baby, I didn't want to lose this man. I felt that he was a very precious, sweet, lovely person that I felt completely comfortable with and really enjoyed being with. And there was no question in my mind when I said, yes, I do want to get married. And it's interesting to me that there was no doubt in my mind, absolutely none. And so I went back down to Nicaragua. We spent another, couple of months together because we had to get all kinds of papers and, to bring him back to the States. And so that was Gerardo Espinosa Paramo from Estali, and we used to sing Estali, un pedacito de amor, paradiso donde yo nací, hoy te brindo el gran felicidad, bonito Estali. Anyway, it was very touching, it was very beautiful, and we had a very good life together, except for couple of problems that came up in later years. I mean, we're actually, we got married in 85, and I didn't leave till 99, so that was 14 years we were together, and we had a very beautiful marriage. But then there were problems, which I'm not going to discuss right now. And we stayed a very deep spiritual connection and outlook. In fact, I brought him to Est, and he was, moved by it. And he loved all the Buddhist stuff, even though he was a Catholic, and he talks to Jesus all the time. But he also recognizes spiritual, he met the Dalai Lama, and he met other Buddhists, some of which he respected and some of which he didn't. But he loved all of that stuff. So we shared that spiritual, which gave our marriage something very powerful, a way of conversing and understanding one another. And